Hey everyone, Michael Martin here from Yahoo Esports, your Street Fighter fighting game expert, and today, Conversations and Fireballs Eleague, Group A regular season special. Joining me is BornFree. How the heck are ya? I'm
extremely good right now because I just want to give a shout out. I got to give shout outs to the Street Fighter Reddit community and everybody else who's been supporting me this week. It's been a big week for me.
Let's talk about Group A. We know, based on the results of the previous 4 days that they did Eleague, they ran through all of the groups and eliminated 2 players from each of those groups, A through D. And each group had a top 1 and 2 seed that are semifinalists. On their website right now, they have brackets set up where they show, as an example, Group A, Punk and Momochi, if you're looking at that. And they have 2 matches already set up. The first being Smug versus Julio, and the second being Infiltration and Brolo. So what I want to talk to you about today is, of course, we're going to kind of go over these matches and maybe do some prognosticating. So why don't we just jump right into the first match, which is Smug versus Julio. I'm gonna toss it to you. What do you think about this match?
Straight up, Julio is an amazing player, but right now I think Smug is better. At this moment in time, I also think the character-wise, I think Smug has the stronger character.
Balrog over Kin, obviously, for those that don't know. If you don't know,
I think Julio is a really smart guy. So a lot of it has to do with when you know who you're going to play, you will watch videos and you'll try and figure out, how can I beat this person? But they're both going to be doing that, and I just feel Smug probably has the advantage on this one.
Julio's a smart dude. Like, that guy plays chess when he's not playing Street Fighter, because he really likes to, I guess it's the quote-unquote theory fighting, right? He really likes to work through those theories. And I think one of the things that him as a player right now that is sort of a disadvantage is his arm's been bothering him. He's got some nerve damage in his arm.
I wasn't sure if that was public. I wasn't sure if that was public knowledge. So
I guess at this point it's public knowledge because it's been acknowledged publicly. Maybe not a huge story about it, but he's had issues with that. So I don't know how much that plays into his performance previously or going into his match with Smug, but
I think it does. It's an injury, and he plays on a stick, and I think he's done extremely well under those circumstances. I would say that
I'm down with Smug taking that set as well. I do think Smug has been a superb player. If Punk and Momochi weren't in this group, Smug probably would have been 1 or 2, right? It was just that close. And yeah, Balrog's just so incredibly good right now. But having said that, you're right. I mean, Julio's a smart player. I think he's a great player as well. Plays a really great Kin. But when you got guys like Smug, Punk, and Momochi, who Momochi plays an amazing Kin, I think it's a pretty tough draw for him.
What the injury really does is it means that he's going to have less time to train, potentially less time to warm up. I'm sure he can't put his. I don't know the injury exactly, but I suspect he can't put too much stress on it.
Right.
So I think Smug's going to have a little bit of an advantage in terms of being able to play more, warm up more, that sort of stuff. I never count Julio out, but I would have to go with Smug on this one right now. And also the characters, since the update, I'd probably have to go with Smug.
Yeah. All right, so let's tally Smug down and move on real quick to the next match that we currently know is taking place, which is, of course, Infiltration and Brolo. This match is interesting to me because and I think it should be noted that in Smug and Julio's first match, I believe Smug won that 2-0. But Infiltration and Brolo obviously have some history going back last year. Brolo beat Infiltration at ESL 1 in New York, the Brooklyn beatdown. And Brolo took their match in the preliminary round of Eleague 2-1. Infiltration started out that day kind of cold. I think he got better as the day went along in the preliminary round. But I feel like this is an interesting matchup. I'm not sure. To me, I almost feel like this is a coin toss as far as who I would pick to take this, because I really feel like it's whoever maybe feels better on that that given day. So what do you think about this matchup?
this is so hard
Yeah.
with Infiltration right now because I just don't know that he has a character he feels comfortable with. So he used Rashid against Brolo. I don't think he's comfortable with Jury. He you know, for all I know, he could pull out Colleen because everyone keeps saying Colleen is DeCapre. Like, you play Colleen, right?
Yes, yes.
Everyone keeps saying she's actually quite annoying, quite an annoying character. You know, can play a lot of keep away. So I just don't know. I don't know what, you know, what Infiltration is going to bring. I do know that he's an experienced enough player to look back at his match with Brolo. He might just look back at his match with Brolo and use Rashid. He might just use Rashid and have figured a few things out. So I guess we'll see. But Brolo is always super surprising.
Right.
You know what? That's a really terrible thing for me to say. You know what? You know why? It's because he doesn't get quite the same exposure as everybody else. But whenever he turns up to a US event, he's like amazing, you know? So it's really, really tough to call. And but I love Infiltration. He's an awesome person. So I'm kind of gonna get a bit personal. Gonna get a bit personal on this one because I you know, I'd like to call him my friend, and so I'm gonna go with Infiltration.
So like I said, this matchup is interesting to me. Brolo, of course, plays Nikali. Infiltration has spent. I mean, I don't know. I don't see him playing Colleen just because I feel like if he's been putting enough time into other characters, my guess is he probably hasn't been putting enough time in Colleen for something like this type of event. Having said that, at ESL 1, he played Alex and I don't know, some other characters that people were kind of Balrog, I think. That
Balrog,
people were,
he has a Balrog, so
I guess based on the fact that he played Rashid and Jury, I think you're right. I think he goes back. I think he looks at this matchup that he played against Brolo, and maybe to me it makes more sense to just go with Rashid and clean up whatever mistakes you made in preparation for this match. I don't think his Jury looked bad by any means. Like nothing. I don't feel like anytime he plays, I don't think he looks bad. But I do feel like his Jury probably wasn't as strong as maybe he would like in this type of setting. So I definitely think that he goes Rashid. I just can't see him pulling out a Colleen in this situation. I don't know. You know, I'm with you. Like, I know the guy. I've gotten to know him pretty well. I remember at Capcom Cup I did an interview where I'm like, I got to support my Korean brothers because I want to see, my Korean brothers win. Something tells me Brolo can walk away with this one. So yeah. I'm not going to sit on the fence on this one, and I'm going to say, like you said, it will be a surprise, but only because it's like, I think we still hold Infiltration in that high regard. He's clearly not the player he was last year at this time. But I feel like Brolo can take this one. In the end, you've got Smug, Infiltration, Momochi, and Punk. Who do you think comes out as the two players that are going into the top 8 finals? Can Smug and Infiltration, either one of those guys, beat either Momochi or Punk to get into the finals?
I don't know. It's interesting because Punk did well in the studio without a crowd. I believe they're going to have audience. They're going to. I believe they're going to have an audience this time. Yes. So I think the setting will be slightly different. I think sometimes you have to look at like experience, because Punk's sort of been kicking ass here, there, and everywhere. As he's gotten more attention, and there's been question marks, I think, over can he push through that last stage? So I feel like, Smug, maybe we'll see Smug go through and play Momochi. Maybe we will see Infiltration or Brolo go through and play Punk. And then at that point, I start to look at experience. I think. So I would definitely bet on Momochi. I also think Momochi is just one of those players who will have done some incredible homework. Even though he's playing Ken, and Ken's still supposed to be not as strong. He always makes Ken look strong. So I'd put Momochi in the top 2. And then, whew, I guess I would like to see Punk or Infiltration. You know, well, I mean, I think they're all great players. Brolino too. But I did go with Infiltration initially, so I have to continue with that thinking.
Okay.
I think experience is going to win through under this pressure.
So I'm glad you brought up pressure, because I think you're right. I think experience is a huge factor in something like this. But the idea that they weren't even on TV yet, and they were in this studio, you know, in the what is it, the G Fuel Eleague arena. They're in this studio, which is where that audience will be on Friday nights going forward. And a lot of those guys talked about how it felt like this is a bigger deal than kind of usual, right? You know, you go to a tournament, whether it could be EVO, it could be CEO, West Coast Warzone, which is this weekend, whatever, right? You go through your pools, you know, you do the normal thing. This is different. You know, you're in elimination rounds at this point, right? And now you have an audience thrown in there. But I think what I've noticed out of someone like Punk is I don't think necessarily an audience itself will bother him, because I feel like that guy's played in some high-pressure situations. He's done really well in some high-pressure situations, especially given his age and I guess where he's at as a professional at this point, which I would say as a professional, it hasn't been very long. I mean, it probably dates back to really kind of November-ish last year when, you know, he made a splash at Red Bull Battlegrounds. So I think you're right, where the pressure I think for him comes in is you're on a big stage, probably bigger than South by South or South by Southwest, whatever. And yeah, now you're on TV, and now you have to sort of not only push aside the things that happened in the past, but now you got to push all these other sort of extra things aside. And can he overcome that?
Yeah, I think the key for Punk is to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. So that sounds much easier to say than to actually do, given the circumstances he'll be under. But if they can keep him comfortable, and you know, and if he can just block everything else out and just go in there and with the mindset of I've got nothing to lose, instead of the mindset of I've got everything to lose, you know, if he can somehow, it's so much easier to say than do, but if he can somehow like block everything out and go, I'm going to go and have fun, then I think he could, I think on his day he can beat anyone. Right.
I do feel like there is some, maybe he's getting it faster than we might think, hopefully, in his case after South by Southwest, but I feel like he's maturing in a way that he can kind of process these negative things that happen and just put them away quicker. And if he can do that, and he can, you know, get over some of the nerves at Eleague, I still think, you know, it's like I said, Punk and Momochi. I still think it's those two guys coming out of this group into finals.
You know what's also interesting is the guys who reach Punk and Momochi will get a few matches under their belt in that environment, which will also...
You're right. I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
No, I didn't think about it until I'm looking at the brackets right now, right? And I just thought, oh, wait a second. These guys are going to play a few games in front of the audience with the pressure. And then Momochi and Punk are just suddenly going to be thrown into that environment, right, you know, without having played a few games. So that's also a factor.
All right, so I'm excited for these matches. TBS Fridays, Group A regular season begins. Looking forward to see how the players react to the environment and the pressure. This is a huge tournament. Once again, as usual, BornFree, thank you for joining me and having this wonderful discussion on my lovely Eleague 70s game show set.
It's beautiful, and thank you for having me on again.
Absolutely, anytime. You can follow him. Follow BornFree on Twitter. BornFree tweets, BornFree YT on YouTube as well. Go subscribe to him. He deserves it. That's our analysis for the first week of the regular season, Group A. Look forward to talking about Group B next week. Again, that's Fridays on TBS. Make sure you tune into that. And of course, for all your Street Fighter and fighting game coverage, keep it right here on Yahoo Esports.